Hello, Nudgestock. My name's Jenny. I work in advertising, and we're all about the seduction, or the art of seduction. And I'm going to talk to you about the mere exposure effect, which is the more you see it, the more you like it. But before I go into that, is this going to work? Is this switched on? Here we go. I just want to pose a question to you. Imagine you've got some money and you're like, should I spend it now? No, I'm going to save it. I'm going to invest it. Interest rate isn't very good. So you go to your financial advisor and you say, I've got some money. I want to invest it. What should I do? If you're younger, he'll suggest some cryptocurrencies. If you're a bit more old school like me, I'll go stocks and shares. And he gives you, he or she gives you these options. And then you say, well, this is how much I want to invest. And they're like, well, hang on a minute, it's a bit less than I thought. He said, but it's okay. I've done some due diligence, and all of these stocks or shares or cryptocurrencies, they all have an equal likelihood of being successful. So with the amount of money that you want to invest, just pick half of them. Just pick any three. It doesn't really matter, because they've all got an equal probability of being successful for you. So pick the three that you want. I don't know if there are any budding Carol Vordermans out there, but anyone know the probability of anyone picking any of those three combinations? So 1 in 20. So it's a 5% chance that you will pick the same combination as someone else with everything being equal. So I work in research, and we run a panel every quarter, and we posed a similar question to 1,000 panelists. And we're quite surprised by the results, because the combination in green is the combination that was most likely to be picked. So only 4% of people didn't pick any of those. Almost half picked at least 2 of those, with 26% picking those 3, with everything being equal. And that's because we're more familiar with seeing the letters FAM, ODEO, and BEL together. So with all things being equal, you're more likely to pick things you're familiar with. Red wine drinkers, by the way, were more likely to pick RJO because it reminds them of Rioja. And this is really, really interesting for brands in the industry that I am in, because when you go and pick a shampoo, maybe even a mortgage, definitely some sort of like a mobile phone provider, lots of the content is equal. And why do you pick one over the other? And it's familiarity. And that's why brands have been successful, and that's why you pick it. And I work at Kinetic, and we work in posters. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. Does it matter if you're familiar with things? How is this going to make a difference? And I investigated this. And the godfather of all of this theory is a guy called Robert Zients. And he came up with the mere exposure effect, which is basically the more you see it, the more you like it, but up until a point. He's done some really good experiments. One is with the words Warbus and Zebulons. He had students. Lots of these experiments were done with students at the time because they were cheap. Some of them would have no exposure to those words, and they were just random words he made up, some 1 or 2, some repeated. And again, those that had repeated exposure were much more likely to feel positive towards those words. He's done it with Chinese letters, and he's done it with faces. And I investigated this some more. And the way that this works, it's not just you like it more and more and more and more. A, you have to like it in the first place. But it produces like a bell curve. And since his original work, there have been thousands of studies, and they've all produced this bell curve that says the more you get exposed to something, the more of a positive response you have, up until a point, and then it decreases. And the way that I like to think of it is with music. So when I listen to a song, if I like it to start with, I'm like, love it. Then I want to listen to it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And then I'm a bit bored of it. And I'm like, oh, I've had enough of this. And it's why you have different tastes and different trends. And the psychology behind this is our brain learns things. And whilst it's learning and retaining new information, it likes it more and more and more. And then at a point, it's like, I kind of know enough about this, so that way of liking it more and more is going down. And if we didn't have this, you'd always have the same genre of songs being popular. You wouldn't have, maybe you don't have a number 1 anymore, but you'd always have the same song being at number 1. Now, I work in out-of-home advertising, and we can kind of decide now things are becoming more digitised, how many times people see a poster. And lots of people in our industry are about the, efficiency of media, so you only have to see it 1 time. But I'm all about the effectiveness of media. What's the most effective times that someone should see it? And our theory was, if you can get to the top spot there, that's kind of like your optimum frequency level, and we just wanted to go out and test this. So how did we do it? Oh my God, it's difficult testing things. I haven't got big data sets. It's a nightmare trying to put different posters up. But one thing that's really helped us, I think, is the explosion of VR. And I work in market research, and we're seeing an explosion of VR panels. And it means when you've got lots of other things going on that you can't control for, you can go to companies like TNS, Kantar, Populous, and they can create like a virtual world for you, which is really helpful for us. So we filmed some locations, and our plan was to put up different posters in different locations, then get about 400 odd people to have different levels of exposure to the posters. So someone might be asked to look around a scene and go, just have a look around this scene. We'll ask you some questions. Some people might be asked to come back after 2 days or 4 days or 8 days, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how we're going to do the experiment. And then we had to come up with the posters. The key here is it had to be a good poster. I am not a creative. But it had to be a poster that no one had seen before. So it's quite a simple idea. I just nicked some posters from America and tested it with people in the UK. So the next thing I had to come up with is, how are we going to measure this? So this is where I turn to psychology and the work of Fang et al. And a guy who'd done a PhD in the mere exposure effect and said, how does this work? What questions should I test it with? So I come up with the methodology. And we came up with quite a simple question that we had as a key metric. I won't show the other stuff, but we asked other questions as well, just to make sure we weren't always getting like the same bell curve. And this is what we did. So some people might be asked, say, to come back 3 or 4 times to look at the same scene, and we masked it. So we said, it's all for like local council, have a look round, you'll get your incentive at the end. And you'd only be exposed to one ad at a time, so you might only be exposed to the Coca-Cola ad. But at the end of it, you'd be asked about every single ad. And the whole point of it was to compare those people who had never had exposure to the ad and say, how much do you like this ad, to those that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, et cetera, exposures. Because our hypothesis was, well, if you've had more exposures, can we prove this hypothesis that there is a curve? If it didn't work, I obviously wouldn't be here. But it did, ta-da! So we had to group the exposures together just for the numbers. But this was no exposures, and we had to do it you can't give an absolute score because, one person's 6 is another person's 8, so it was the relative score. It went up between 1 to 4, up again to 5 to 8. It peaked at 9 to 12, and then came back down again. I wouldn't use this as an absolute number, although they did a meta-analysis of the mere exposure effect, and 10 keeps coming out as a number where it's optimal. But I think what we're finding here is we had like a theory of the way to do things, which is about making our media the most efficient or effective that it could be rather than efficient. So our theory was, is there a curve? So we could go back to our clients and say, we do believe that people should see an ad more than once. Now we've demonstrated the curve, we can work more with clients because there will be variables that affect this. Have you seen any other advertising? How good was the ad? Are they familiar with the brand? Are they into the product? But the fact that we've seen a curve reinforces that advertising, it wears in and then wears out again. So it's helping our business. So I suppose the implications for us and the way that I've been using behavioural science is I work with people that have a long time been in the industry and saying, do you know what? It really makes sense that people have to either see things more than once or do it in this way. But it's sometimes difficult to demonstrate it to a client, and especially more into a procurement, who are like, well, hang on a minute, I think there's a more efficient way of doing this. It also helps with clients who are maybe a bit nervous about doing things, about doing the IBM solution, that if you can show them there's a reason why they're seeing these results, they can help to understand it. And then it turns it from being, I suppose, something quite tactical, that you can make it more strategic. So I think the 3 key things are, it's really helping us to plan with our heads and not our hearts, to say, when it doesn't feel right, we can demonstrate that it's right. It's making our clients' media more effective, and I am really banging on the drum for effective rather than efficient media. Rory's written a great article in Campaign about it, and I truly believe that we should be saying things about making our media more effective than efficient. But the other thing, I think, is just to build up a database of norms. And the reason why I'm talking to people is that, this is just one tiny experiment with a few ads. We're hoping to replicate it a little bit more, but have more people done this? Have people tried to link this to sales? Is this the case with other things? And then I think if we have more data that comes together, people can have more learnings from it, so we can build things from it. Thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest.